Hey, and welcome back to another episode of Too Much Pod Tar. We are now, July 4th when the episode comes out. The 4th of July. Happy 4th of July, everybody. Happy Independence Day. And, we got started with baseball summer camps yesterday. That's when they officially started. So we're getting rolling here, getting a season underway. And the first game will be July 23rd, rumored to be Yankees Nationals. So that'll be an exciting game. Scherzer against Cole. So for this episode, I got John Supowitz on, Supi, and Johnnie Black. He's back. And then Supi's back. So welcome back.
Thank you I'm glad to be back. I know it's been a very, very long time, and I have wholeheartedly missed being on here. I've missed you guys, and now that baseball season is finally here after what feels like 1,000 years, let's finally get some baseball started.
Hell yeah. I'm excited. So we got, for this episode, we're going to be rolling through our American League predictions. Who's going to make the playoffs out of those? MVP, Cy Young, Rookie of the Year, breakouts, and just go through a bunch of them. Each of us were to go through ours and give reasons. So
Sounds good.
Unless you guys have anything else to add, we could just get rolling into it, I guess.
I'm ready to go because I'm ready to finally talk baseball.
Yes.
I
second that.
I cannot. I'm like, I'm fine with staying home and social distancing, but I can't watch any more NBA 2K tournaments or iRacing is something now. I haven't checked out this iRacing yet. Maybe at some point, but finally, real sports, real games. Let's do it.
Yeah, I watched at the beginning when KBO started. I was watching a little bit of that, but I kind of got sick of it. I was like, this isn't real baseball.
I did the same thing. I checked out a couple games. It's just it really isn't the same as just Major League Baseball. So, and again, we recognize these players in Major League Baseball. We've already invested in all these teams, so I'm ready for that.
So let's start off with predictions for the playoff teams in the American League. Let's go Johnny first.
All right. So we have 7 playoff teams, if I'm not mistaken. Did they do the? No, they didn't do the expanded playoffs this year.
I don't think so.
No,
not up 7 yet. I don't. Yeah, I think maybe next year they might do 7, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's right. The last proposal. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, playoff teams. I'm gonna go with the Yankees in the East. They're still the class of that division. I mean, Sale is still out for the Red Sox. So, if they had Sale back in a shortened season, that could help. I mean, I like Tampa Bay's starting staff. I like Toronto's offense. Orioles are still a work in progress, but Yankees are taking that division. I don't see anyone else challenging them. I got to go with my Twins in the Central again. They dominated last year. They played really well. I think the hitting is going to come out strong. They added Josh Donaldson this year. They'll have Rich Hill for actually the full season because he was due back end of June, beginning of July anyway. And they'll have Pineda back later on in the year too, even though he's serving the suspension. But I don't see anyone in the Central beating the Twins at this point. The West is a little different. The West is going to be interesting. We talked off the air a little bit before, Alex, about Mike Trout possibly sitting out. If that's the case, then you got to take the Angels down a notch, even if you had them up there. I still think Oakland's the best team in that division. So I would say the A's, with Chapman, Olsen, Semien, all those guys. Their starting staff is starting to look really good. A healthy Manaea, Jesus Luzardo, Frankie Montas coming back after the suspension last year. They have a solid team. So I would say those 3 for the division winners. As far as the wild cards, I would have to say the Rays, and I'd probably go with either the Indians or the Angels. Even without Trout, I still have a funny feeling that the Angels are going to play well and possibly well enough to take that second wild card. But I think the AL Central, I think, even though they're playing the NL Central some games this year too, I think the AL Central is still the weakest division overall, with the exception of the Twins and Indians. Kansas City's building up. Detroit, Chicago's just not there yet. So I would say Tampa Bay, and if I had to guess, I'd say the Indians as the other wild card.
I'm not against any of those picks. Like you said, the AL Central is the weakest division. I'm going to be with you on that one. I'm going to say the Twins are probably going to take that division. But last year, Cleveland finished second. But I think this year, the White Sox are going to climb over Cleveland. I like Chicago this year. They've made some big moves. I mean, you can't ignore that they signed Grandal. They signed the big free agent catcher over the offseason. And then they brought in Encarnacion. You still got Abreu. You still got Tim Anderson. You got Giolito, who's I think is going to step up big time this year. He's going to be a Cy Young contender. And they added Dallas Keuchel. I would not be shocked in a shortened season that Chicago maybe not necessarily takes that Central, but I think they make the Twins sweat a little bit.
Yeah, I actually agree with that. I actually had White Sox winning that second wild card spot, so I agree with you there. I think they're going to make a huge jump with all the youngsters there.
Oh yeah, we heard, again, like last year they were talking a little bit. Are they going to sign Manny Machado? They didn't get him, but I think this year they made that jump. They made that jump and signed some free agents. And again, this is a weaker division. And it's a shortened season, 60 games. A lot can happen in 60 games. I do like Minnesota's lineup better. I do like their starting pitching better, which I think is going to be the most important thing, is going to be pitching over this shortened season. But yeah, I think the Twins will still take it. But I think Chicago, very, very much so, could either make it close or at least get a wild card spot.
Yeah, so my playoff teams, I got the Yankees, of course, winning the East, and then I do have the Twins winning the Central, and the A's. I have the same three division champs as Johnny did, so pretty much all the same. Astros, I'm having missing the playoffs as well, so I actually have the Angels and White Sox as the wild card teams. I have the Rays missing out. I think they're going to be kind of a disappointment this year. I just know I kind of have a funny feeling that the Yankees are going to be able to run away with the AL East this year. So,
for me, again, I would say yes. The Yankees are probably the best team in that division. They have the best rotation. They have the best bullpen. They're going to have the best lineup. Even if Stanton may miss some time, we're not 100% sure on that calf. I mean, they said it was a calf strain in spring training, 5 months ago, but he's still having problems with it, and he still may miss. He still may not play opening, which means it's more than just some kind of like calf strain. But yeah, I definitely think the Yankees are going to take that division. The Central, I want to go against you too. I would love to, but I think you have to say the Twins just because, again, they have a better rotation. Barrios to me he is going to be another Cy Young contender that I think is really going to step up this year. And again, their lineup already was one of the better lineups in the AL. Maybe I think they were 4th or 5th in run differential in the AL, and they just picked up Josh Donaldson for that lineup. So they're obviously, I think the better team. The AL West, despite everything happened with the Astros are still the Astros. They're still going to have Tuve. They're still going to have Bregman. They still have Correa. They still have Springer. Garrett Cole is gone. But guess what? There's still Zach Greinke. they're still the Cy Young winner from last year, Justin Verlander. I think trash cans or not, buzzers on your jersey or not, I think the Astros are still the better team. I think Oakland could make the run. They do. They get a Chapman and Simeon, and Chris Davis had an off year. He's still a tremendous player. I think he's definitely going to have a better season this year. Maybe even hit better than 247, which he does every year. But I still think Houston's the better team. I think they're still going to take that division. So for my wild card, I was debating a lot too, because I think there's the good teams, the really, really good teams, just kind of how it was last year. Yankees, Minnesota, and Houston. And then everybody sort of kind of shuffled. There was like a lot of in-betweener teams and a lot of really bad teams. So I think for my wild card, I think the White Sox. I'm going to take the White Sox, taking one great young players, and they signed a great lineup. I mean, Grandal, you add Encarnacion to that lineup, and then you've got Tim Anderson, you got Abreu. I think that is going to be a great lineup, especially right in the middle. And then I think for my second wild card spot, I wanted to take the Angels. I really do, but this is on the contingency that Mike Trout doesn't play. I think they'll still make it close, but I think Oakland's still more of the more well-rounded team. So I think for that second wild card spot, I'm going to take Oakland.
Yeah, so we're pretty much all in agreement except for the West. The West kind of, because you said the Astros, but
it just my thing is, I with everything went on with the Astros, okay, but again, they're still all talented, really talented players. I still think that team is just too good. Just pure talent alone can win that division. So.
Yeah, definitely.
Oakland's always that team that's going to be good. They're always going to, get to the dance, but not necessarily take a step onto the floor.
Right. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I definitely see the Astros making the playoffs more than I thought before. Like, if there was an actual season, like a regular season with fans and everything like that, like that's why I kind of thought at that, like before when we did like all the season previews, I was adamant about them missing the playoffs, but because of the fact that they would get booed vigorously at every game they went to, like away game, they would be booed by every fan base. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of why I thought it not then, but I know I just still kind of feel like they're gonna make a fall down, because after all the allegations came out, like they're just gonna after all the cheating shit came out, I think they're just gonna fall flat at some point. Like maybe they'll start off hot, but then I think they might end up struggling a little bit as we get into the season.
And again, too, it's a shortened season, so I think a lot of people did have their predictions of what was going to happen going into February, planning on 162 games, and now that you only have 60, I think that just reevaluates everything. I think you have to go in that kind of different mentality now that the season isn't necessarily a marathon. It's a little bit of a sprint now. And I think, you're not going to have the dog days. You're not going to have, that in mid-September, weather's getting colder, muscles are getting tighter type of games. You're not going to have as many star veteran players taking days off now. So you're going to have your best lineup in for the most part, all 60 games. So I think that definitely plays a big factor into it too. So I think this is truly going to be one of those years where the best team overall, the best lineup, the best roster is going to be the team that wins.
Yeah. That's why I actually believe that this year's there's always the question about if this year is going to be legitimate, like the World Series champion is going to be legitimate. I think it's going to be more tougher than usual, almost, maybe not as tough, but because everybody's in the same boat. They're all playing a shortened season. It's just everybody's going to be playing like every game matters. So,
absolutely. No one's getting an advantage over anybody else. You know, asterisk. Why would you put an asterisk on it? Everybody went to spring training at the same time. Everybody's season was canceled at the same time. Everybody has had the same amount of time off as everybody else. They're all going to play 60 games. They're all going to be doing the same thing. I don't know how you could say, well, because it's a shortened season, you have to put an asterisk on it. Fuck that. Everyone's going through the same situation. It's still the same season.
Yeah, so let's jump into our MVP predictions. I'll start off for this one. I think if he does play, it'll be Mike Trout. I think he'll definitely take it. But I'm gonna go with the prediction if he doesn't play too. If he doesn't, I'm gonna actually go with Aaron Judge. I'm gonna go with a little bit of homer pick with Aaron Judge. I think he looked like he was gonna set the world on fire when he was in batting practice. Like he looks ready. He looks healthy. He looks like he's ready to go. Hit 30 bombs in 60 games. So.
Yeah, I kind of am mirroring what you were saying. You know, if Mike Trout plays, I mean, obviously he's the best player in the league. But again, he's 50-50. So who knows if he plays? But I wrote down the same thing. If there is no Trout, I think Judge will probably be your best bet right now. As the MVP favorite.
Yeah, I'm going to roll with, because I picked the Indians too to make the wild card, I'm rolling with Frankie Lindor as my MVP. I think the fact that he plays an excellent shortstop, he may not be the defensive wizard that Drelton Simmons is, but he plays a great shortstop, and switch hitter on that team, he's going to have to come out hot, and I think he will. And he can sustain a 60-game season where this guy can steal bases, he can hit home runs, he can carry the team, and I think he's really going to carry them into the wild card spot. So I can see Frankie Lindor. That's my pick for MVP.
I definitely consider him in that top 5. The only thing, again, I'm still scared. I'm always scared of a star player like that not having the supporting staff around him. You know, it's easy to pitch around Frankie Lindor when, you know, everybody else in that lineup you can easily is much easier to pitch against. That's the only thing I'm nervous about. But like you said, he is fast on the bases. He's a run threat. So I think you do want to try to keep him off the bases as much as possible. So I think he will have the opportunities to hit. So I would not, if I look in September and I see Frankie Lindor is, has top in batting average, top in stolen bases, RBIs, hits, I'm not shocked by that at all.
Oh yeah, I can see that as well. Let's go Cy Young now. Sorry about all these Yankees picks, but I gotta go with Garrett Cole. He's gonna probably strike out. I don't know how many would he do in a 60-game season. Maybe like at least 100, I would say. So I think he's just gonna have the best ERA, the most wins, most strikeouts, all that stuff.
You know, for me, I thought about it. I had no idea. I didn't know. I wanted to pick Garrett Cole, but I don't think that Garrett Cole will have the numbers that he had in Houston or Pittsburgh. Because, again, Yankee Stadium is a hitter's ballpark. And with that lineup that he has backing him up, I don't think he needs to necessarily grind out and pitch. He knows he's going to get the run support. So I don't necessarily I think his ERA is going to be in the higher 3s, maybe even lower 4s, but he'll still be able to get, I'm trying to think like how many starts, but I would say that everybody gets about 10 or 11 starts. So I think he will I think he'll win maybe 6 or 7 games. That's a whole possibility. But again, I don't think he's going to have the dominating numbers like he believes he needs to have. Like Masahiro Tanaka very much pitches to what the game situation is. If he's up 5-1, he's going to give up a solo shot or 2-runner. He doesn't care. Yeah. And I think that's kind of the way the Yankees play, especially too playing in that stadium. So I think I'm going to go with back-to-back Cy Youngs for Justin Verlander. I just think I thought Justin Verlander was done a few years ago towards the end of his tenure at Detroit, and how he has reinvented his career to me is so amazing. And honestly, to me now, the way he's been since he's come to Houston, I think he's one of the best pitchers of the 21st century. I think I'm going to put him up there. So I'm going to give Justin Verlander back-to-back Cy Youngs this year.
Yeah, I'm going to go. This is going to be my homer pick, and I'm going with Barrios from Minnesota. I mean, he can definitely put together.
I knew you were going to say it.
I mean, the kid's still only 25 years old. He's he's good. Leagues, and with that offense, with his support and everything like that, I think he can pitch efficiently, which is going to give him the innings. He's thrown 200 innings the past 2 years. He pitches. He's not as big of a strikeout guy as Cole Verlander. He does strike out his fair share. But I just think, especially in this shortened season, I think you're going to see him go deeper into games as compared to a lot of starting pitchers in the AL. And I think it's going to get him wins. He's going to have the overall WAR and stuff that a lot of people look at nowadays too. And I just think he's going to have more quality starts, because he's going to go 6 innings as opposed to a lot of starters that are going to go 4 and 5 because of the pitch count. I think with that offense behind him, his efficiency, and the fact that he can still strike guys out, and with the excellent defense behind him, the defense improved immensely having Donaldson at third. I'm going to give it to Barrios.
I like that pick. And I like the age thing to me, I think that's also very important too. I think, especially because he is younger, it's a shortened season. I think most of these starting pitchers will probably pitch between 60 to 75 innings this year. They can go all out. And especially with the younger ones, I think he'll be able, like you said, to go longer. I think when it comes to the veteran pitchers, like a Verlander, I think it'll be 4 or 5 innings. You can extend that bullpen because you're not going to have your bullpen guys pitching 100 innings this year. So you'll be able to extend everybody. So I think veteran guys will get shorter time to save them for the playoffs, especially because Houston and New York will be in the playoffs. So will Minnesota, but I think, again, with, like you said, Barrios' age, I think that benefits him back. I actually do think that's a really, really good pick, because I think he's going to have the innings to prove how good he is.
Yeah, I think he could definitely finish top 3 at least. So, in the Cy Young.
Exactly. And again, this is, predicting this season is none like we've ever done ever in our, not even just as much as we've started doing this podcast and doing all this stuff, but our whole lives. We've never had a season like this before. We don't know what's going to happen in just 60 games. And it's even thinking of when I was thinking about what numbers all these players can produce, I got to remember that it's not going to be a regular season. So, I mean, for the most part, 30 home runs could be your home run champ. 70, 80 RBIs could be your RBI champ for all we know.
Yeah, and we'll see. Maybe somebody will hit 400. You never know.
I think I posed that on our group chat, didn't I? Say that someone had the chance of maybe beating Ted Williams' record, and I did. That was a question I posed. Do you put an asterisk on that? I think you should, because again, it's only 60 games. But I very, very highly believe that somebody could put a good string of games, and I think someone does hit at least 400.
Yeah, I could definitely see it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move on to Rookie of the Year. I thought about this. I thought about maybe Luis Robert. Obviously, he's probably the favorite. I'm actually going to go with a different route, though, with Luzardo, Jesus Luzardo, with the A's. I think I had the A's winning the division, so I think he's going to be a big part of that. He hasn't had much yet. Obviously, he made his debut and not until September last year after injuries and stuff. So I think he's going to put up major numbers this year and take home that Rookie of the Year. So
I like the Luzardo pick. I like
Yeah.
that. I'm gonna stick with my pick. I'm gonna stick in the AL West. I'm gonna go with Jake Fraley, right fielder for Seattle. The kid in the minor league, he had 41 plate appearances last year for Seattle, so he's still a rookie. He was poised to take over for Mitch Haniger. As far as I know, Haniger still isn't going to be back, so who knows what's going on with him. The guy's hurt, mysterious injuries, whatever, back injuries, stuff like that. But Fraley, looking at a little his minor league profile and how he plays, he's got an intriguing power speed combo. The kid he's got some pop, he's got some speed, he can hit a little bit, and I think in a shortened season, he's going to prove that he may be even better than Haniger or the other kid they even like over there, Kyle Lewis in left field. So I'm going to go with Jake Fraley because I think he's really going to put up some serious home run, stolen base numbers and hit solid enough where he's going to put up some good numbers. He will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just another quick note on Luzardo. Since it's obviously a 60-game season, he's not going to have an innings limit, so he'll be able to just be let loose and just put up good stuff. So,
For me, I was thinking about it, and I think I'm going to go with Luis Robert with the White Sox. Mm-hmm. Obviously, when we looked last year, we're like, why are they giving this contract? A $50 million contract to a player that has never seen Major League Baseball action. I think, but if you've seen him hit in the minors, how strong this guy is, how big and how much pop he has, you will obviously see why they invested so much into him. And I think, again, in a shortened season, he's a young player. He's going to play. I think he's going to probably, he'll be someone that plays all 60 games. This dude is going to have serious pop. And I honestly think he's going to have a quick jump. I think you're going to know his name really quick in the season. So for me, I'm going to pick Luis Robert.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with Robert for sure. Let's go with breakout hitters now. I'm gonna stick with the White Sox with Eloy Jimenez. He didn't really have much of a good season last year. I think he kind of struggled. But I think this year the White Sox are gonna have all those big bats in the lineup now. Obviously, you said it before with Grandal, Encarnacion. With Jimenez, he's going to be surrounded by all those bats, so he'll have to be pitched to now. So I think he's going to break out and put up some good numbers now, and finally be like the piece they need there. I think a huge piece to winning that wild card game.
Yeah, I was going back and forth with this one, and it's kind of hard to like breakout hitters, but I like what Supi said before. And actually, that would be bounce back. My bad. Breakout hitters. I was thinking bounce back. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I was thinking breakout hitters. I'm going to take a look at someone like Austin Hayes from Baltimore. I think he gets his chance to sit there to play this year. Obviously, the Orioles weren't going anywhere anyway. And surprisingly enough, Ryan Mountcastle, who I like a lot, isn't even on their 60-man roster, which I was shocked at when they released it. I mean, of course, that can change. But Austin Hayes is a guy I like in the outfield in Baltimore. He's playing in a great park. Like we talk about Yankee Stadium, Camden Yards is a great hitter's park. And the thing with him is he's going to be kind of the man there because we don't know what's going on with Trey Mancini, the cancer recovery and stuff like that. So I'm sure he's not playing this year. I mean, he was questionable anyway to play this year, but I like Austin Hayes. I think he's going to be a breakout guy. I think he's obviously Jake Fraley too, because I picked him for Rookie of the Year. But I think Austin Hayes is going to be one of those guys too that people are going to open their eyes to in Baltimore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I like that. For me, I'm going with the AL East, and I'm not going with any obvious team. I'm going with a player on the Blue Jays. We saw last year Vlad Guerrero Jr. how powerful he is, but we also saw Bo Bichette and how well he hit last year. One son of a Major League Baseball player that we didn't really see do much last year that I think is going to have a bounce back year is Calvin Biggio. I mean, again, he's got the pedigree. He's a great young hitter and did not really get noticed as much as the other two big names that came up in Toronto last year. So I think that Biggio, surrounded by that lineup with Vlad and Bichette, and they got Joe Panic, they got some great guys in that lineup. I think that now Biggio is going to shine this year. I think he's going to have a big improvement.
Yeah, I like that pick too. That's a good. And then breakout pitcher, obviously mine's going to be Luzardo since he was my Rookie of the Year pick. So just as I said before, I think he's going to be a big piece to their run to winning the AL West. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm going to go with my guy who I actually liked in drafts earlier this year before the season was canceled. But I'm going to roll with Dylan Bundy over with the Angels now. I think former first-round pick was supposed to have a great arm. He's shown flashes here and there, but he pitched in Baltimore, was hurt up and down and blah, blah, blah. I think the kid's only 27. He's been back and forth. Like I said, he's got the pedigree, like Supi was saying about Biggio and Bichette and Guerrero and these guys. When you have the pedigree, you get more chances. And I think Bundy has shown he's learned how to pitch and not just throw through his years in Baltimore. And I honestly think he's going to benefit a lot from going to L.A.
Mm-hmm.
I think the weather's better, although it's a shortened season. But, I mean, I think 27 years old, I think the change of scenery is huge for him. We see it in every sport. Sometimes guys don't make it the team that was drafted, blah, blah, blah. And honestly, the defense there is much better than Baltimore's defense. I mean, when you're talking about you having Drelton Simmons at short, Rendon at third, possibly Trout in center field. I mean, you're talking about great defense. David Fletcher at second. Jason Castro behind the plate was one of the best pitch framers in baseball that they signed this year. I think Dylan Bundy is going to really have an impact this year.
Yeah, I like that because I had watched, again, being a Yankee fan, I watched him in Baltimore a little bit. I think he is a good pitcher. He has some good stuff. I really do think that he's going to benefit playing on a much better team than he has. For me, I've kind of talked White Sox a lot throughout this because I'm really confident in the team. So I think for the breakout pitcher, he pitched well last year. 14 wins, 3.4 ERA. Lucas Giolito. I think that he is really going to have a huge season for the White Sox. Again, I think the White Sox have improved immensely in the offseason. I think that's going to help him a lot. That's really going to show the stuff that he is. And I think his name, I think, is going to get some Cy Young votes. I think he's going to be the ace of that staff. He's the best pitcher on that staff. And I think really this year is the year that you're going to know his name. He had a good 2009 after having an abysmal 2018. So I think now in 2020, you're really gonna hear this guy's name a lot.
Yeah, I like Giolito a lot.
I'm actually not a huge fan of Giolito, but that's just
Really?
me. Yeah, a lot of people like him. I want to see it another season. I'm not 100% convinced, and I'll tell you why. And this may be just me looking at things differently. I don't know, and he could prove me wrong. I mean, the guy I came up with a lot of hype also, but he's a big dude, 6'8", I think, something like that.
Yeah.
He's a big dude. Those guys tend to lose command very quickly. You know, he throws hard. He's got great movement. You know, and he harnessed his command last year after, like you said, an abysmal 2018.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see if he can repeat it, because that's the problem with bigger guys, is they have problems with their mechanics as years go on. Now, Randy Johnson, if you remember Randy Johnson with the Expos and when he first got to Seattle, dude was a mess. He couldn't find a strike zone. I mean, he had a worse walk rate than Nolan Ryan. But he finally harnessed it. And yes, he obviously became the Hall of Fame pitcher he is. But I want to see Giolito. I got to see more of him, because guys who are that size, like I said, do not generally string together multiple seasons of dominance. Mm-hmm. So I want to see. Plus, he's working with a new catcher. Now, Grandal is arguably the best catcher in baseball. You could say one or two with Real Muto. I could see the argument for either one.
Yeah.
I love Grandal. He's great, but he's a new catcher going to a new league, learning new hitters, working with Giolito for 60 games. So I want to see. I'm not sold on Giolito this year. I'm just not. I mean, like I said, that's me, and he could prove me wrong. You know, I just hope I just hope if he does prove me wrong, it's just not against the Twins. That's all.
I see your point with all that. I really do. I do see your point with all that. Yeah, absolutely.
So let's move to some biggest surprise teams. Since I have them making the playoffs, I kind of had a combination of the White Sox and Angels, because obviously they didn't make it last year. So I think both of them are kind of be surprises into that wild card spots. You know, it's with the Angels especially. It's really important that Trout plays for them. I don't think they're going to make it if they don't have him play, but if he does, then they definitely have a really good shot. I think their pitching is going to make some strides. They obviously don't have that great of a pitching staff right now, but they do have Ohtani back to be able to pitch. They do have some guys that they added as well, so I think they'll be a decent and be able to score some runs there too now with Rendon.
Mm-hmm. I think I'm gonna keep piggybacking. I think the White Sox, to me, are going to be that surprise team, because also, where they finished last year, they finished down. I think they finished third last year, under 500. I think they're honestly, again, I'm trying to think. I have to remember we're only playing 60 games. I think they could definitely win 38, maybe 40. I think they're vastly better, because you did, again, Grandal. They got Encarnacion. They got these young players, and Robert and Abreu and Anderson, and they got Dallas Keuchel. Hopefully, Dallas Keuchel can just be the old Dallas Keuchel and play much better this year. I think they're a very, very solid team, and like I said, I think they're going to get one of those wild card spots. So I think that surprise team this year is the White Sox.
I'm not into the White Sox. I don't know, Supi. You're all into them. I just don't see it personally. But hey, we'll see because personally I think
you're afraid they're gonna win the Central, and you'll be disappointed.
I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid at all. I'm not afraid of the White Sox. I just don't see it with that. But that's me. That's my opinion. We'll see how the season plays out. I see them as a true talent, like 500 team right now. I think they have some growing pains to go through. They would have anyway in a full season. And I think with a shortened season, with a new catcher learning a new league, Giolito, Ronaldo Lopez, like guys like that, Carlos Rodon, no one knows what Rodon's going to be this year. He's been on and off. I personally, to me, I see the White Sox being like a 500 team. I mean, could they sneak in the wild card? But the thing is, when we talk about a 500 team, could they get hot and win 37 games? Yeah, they could. So, I mean, I agree with you in that point. This season we don't know. I think the surprise team is, honestly, to me, it's the surprise of how bad they're going to be is the Astros. I think the Astros are going to be a bad team this year. I really do. I really do. I just don't think – I know Greinke and Verlander. I get it. I just don't think their bullpen holds up. I don't think I'm just not confident in their bullpen. And, guys are getting older. Correa's had injuries. Yes, with the shortened season, everyone says, oh, well, he'll stay healthy for the 60 game. Well, we don't know that.
Yeah.
I just think that I think the Angels are going to be better. I think Oakland's a better team overall. Not with the star power, but overall, I think they're a better team. I think they have deeper pitching. And I just think I honestly think the Astros finish under 500. I think they're going to be a major disappointment to a lot of people. And major leagues are going to laugh at them.
Yeah.
I think everybody would be excited if they finish under 500. But the one thing I'm thinking about too, does 28 games, just 28 and 32 get you in that wild card spot? You never know. Again, this season is so short. There's going to be a team or two that's going to get really hot. If a team goes on with how short this season is, a team goes on a 10-game winning streak, you're going to guarantee them a playoff spot. But will every team go through that? Who knows? I can't really predict, and I don't think anybody can. Will 40 wins win your division? Will 35 wins? Will 28 wins get you a wild card spot? I mean, again, it's 60 games. It's so short. I don't think anybody can really predict what it is. So who knows? The Astros going, getting 38 wins may win them that division. Sorry, 28 wins. Because who knows?
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that, if I had to predict the win totals or anything like that, I mean, I think 35 to 40 wins gets you in the playoffs. I think if you're between 30 and 35, it's questionable. I don't think any team is going to get in with a below 500 record this year. I don't see it.
I mean, again, it's like, it's again not as many teams in the playoffs as it is like an NBA, but you see NBA teams with under 500 records getting into the playoffs. And again, it seems because the season is so short, you don't know what's going to happen. Hot streaks, cold streaks. Teams could win 2 or 3 games, lose 2 or 3 games throughout the entire season, and who knows what happens.
Yeah, it's rough. This is rough for everybody to try to predict this
because there's no dog days this year. It's consistently you've got to keep going. There's no we would be entering those dog days in the next couple of weeks where not necessarily you don't need to go on that hot streak. If you go on a little bit of a cold streak, it's not going to ruin your season. If you lose 5 or 6 straight games or maybe lose 7 out of 10, your season might already be done.
Yeah. Well, at this point in a normal season, we'd be talking about, first of all, the All-Star break in 2 weeks, a week and a half. And second of all, we'd be talking about the trade deadline. Damn, it's July. Trade deadline is July 31st.
Right.
Yeah.
Now it's August 31st. But in a normal season, we'd be talking about like, should these guys trade this guy? This guy's on the last year of his contract. What can they get for him? Who they draft, blah, 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 blah. But at this point, we're just waiting for it. We're just waiting for baseball to start.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's completely different.
Well, with the trade deadline, too, I don't know necessarily how many games there. I would assume there'd be about 20-something games when you get into that trade deadline.
Yeah, August. So you have September. Yeah.
What's a 10-10? Is a 10-10 team gonna sell or buy? Is a 15-10 team? If a team's like 15-8, are they definitely gonna buy? If a team's 8-15. Are they definitely going to sell? Because it's like, well, we are a few games under 500, but again, you never know. We might catch that, that little hot streak. So usually when we hit that trade deadline, teams for the most part know whether or not they're going to be buyers or sellers. Right now, these teams are not going to know because it's going to be such a small sample size.
I think the deciding factor is kind of like if the team already knows that they're like a rebuilding team, they're probably going to end up selling anyway.
I agree with you. I think right now teams know what their situation is going into the season. Like we're a contender, we're not a contender. So let's plan the trade deadline now. I guarantee there's probably teams looking at their even like looking at their 60-man roster thinking like, all right, what will we need to improve on in a month when our trade deadline is up? What do we need? I think they're thinking about that right now.
Oh, without a doubt. And not only that too, I mean, you look at it this way, do teams that are rebuilding, that are in a serious rebuild, the Tigers, the Royals, the Orioles, the Giants, teams like that are probably 2-3 years away right now from realistically looking at a playoff run. Do they go in this year and be like, well, hey, we started off 10-10. Maybe we can make a playoff this year? No, probably not. Like you're saying, like teams going into this season that we're honestly talking about, like we're in a serious rebuild. This is what we're going to stick with. Stick with the plan. Even though it's a 60-game season, stick with the plan.
Mm-hmm.
And get rid of the guys that are contracts coming up. Get draft pick. I mean, well, you don't trade for draft picks, but get minor league players, get depth, stuff like that. Maybe a guy that needs to change the scenery. Maybe a relief pitcher that's got 2 years left on his contract. Maybe, whatever it may be. But like you said, yeah, I think a lot of these teams, the bottom teams especially, are not coming into this year. And even if they start off 10-4, that they think they're going to like set the world on fire and like win the division, make the playoffs in the World Series.
Yeah.
I mean, look what Seattle did last year. Seattle was 13-2 in the first 15 games last year.
Yeah.
And what happened with them? What happened? So
exactly.
if they start 13-2 this year, yes, they have a even more of a legit shot of making the playoffs because of the shortened season. But do they trade a Kalenic or a Fraley or a Evan Wright or someone like that, or Evan White, for someone who can help them this year when they know that the future are these guys, like moving forward? I doubt it. Yeah. And not only that, too, you're talking about, normally in a season, you're going to trade for a guy, if he's a rental, you're going to trade for a guy who's going to play you, say, 60 games out of the 162, the last 2 months of the season, August, September, 55, 60 games, whatever it may be. Right now, the trade deadline is August 31st. You got 1 month of the player.
Yep.
Yeah.
Granted, but it also comes down to it's half the season, almost half the season. So it's actually, in ratio-wise, it's more of the season. He could make more of an impact this year, but you're getting him for less time. Yeah. So I'll be interested to see, like the Dodgers 2 years ago traded for Manny Machado. they gave up 5 prospects or whatever it was. It was crazy, a bunch of guys. And we see that every year for a rental.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Will these rentals command the same type of price from these? Like, how are these teams going to look at this price?
Yeah,
it's gonna be interesting because we're all in the same boat. As far as no one knows, GMs don't know, owners don't know, managers don't know. No one knows because we've never seen anything like this. I mean,
and
the shortest season was 1994, and everyone played about 113 games, 114 games, blah blah blah. And that ended after it started. This season, we're not starting until now. So it's completely different from anything anyone has known.
And the thing is, we have to remember the reason why baseball is starting on July 24th this year is we're in the middle of a pandemic. There is a virus, and they have said people are going to get positive tests. People are going to probably catch this virus. So everybody may think, well, we have this team. This is our lineup. This is our rotation. Usually there's, people get injuries and, bad knees and bad elbows. You now have to play the factor in that these players are going to get tested daily. What happens if one player on that team gets test positive? You got to make sure not everybody catches it. What if multiple people catch the coronavirus? What do you do there? How does that affect your season as a whole? That's a huge factor that we have to play into this season, is that somebody could get sick and miss a significant amount of time. What do you do then if you're a team that's poised to make the playoffs? Let's say hypothetically, the Yankees are poised to make the playoffs. They are, they're the best team in the AL. They're going to make the playoffs. Then Aaron Judge tests positive, or Garrett Cole tests positive, or LeMahieu. What do you do there? Because hopefully it would be contained, but you don't know that. If you're close to that trade deadline and one of your best players is going to be out for a couple weeks until they test negative, do you go and make a big trade? So that's a huge factor that we have to think about, and the reason why we're starting the season this late.
Yeah, definitely a lot of questions about the season, like all those things you said. Just you don't know. You don't really. It's like such a question mark for everything. Like
it is again like this. That's why for me, it's so tough to predict what's going to happen this year because there's so many factors. There's no home field advantage when you're not going to play in front of fans. I mean, in baseball, you have more of a home field advantage of anything because of dimensions, and teams like to adjust their rosters to those dimensions. But still, you don't have that intensity of a home field that you would have in normal situations. And there's still going to be chance, and again, because everybody was ready for the season, and then they all of a sudden had to stop, and now they only get a couple of weeks to train to get everything back ready to start over again. So I'm sure most of the players were working out and trying to stay as fit as possible, but they're not in game ready shape. So who knows? Someone may tweak a knee. Someone might tweak an elbow, a hamstring. So I think we're going to see some injuries to start the season. And again, with such a short season, that's a huge factor.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a huge factor because, like you said, especially if one guy tests positive, it's going to be key for them to be able to have to contain it. Then that guy gets has to quarantine for 2 weeks or whatever it is, whatever amount of time he has to until he tests positive. Of course, I mean tests negative.
No, exactly. We've been lucky enough to where, well, not lucky, but like it's been to the situation already where some players have tested positive already. Obviously, we don't know who, but some players have already tested positive, but they hadn't reported to camp yet. They hadn't been around their team yet. So what happens when it happens when everyone's together. So how much does that spread yet? Because we don't know. We haven't seen it yet. We haven't seen it yet in the major leagues. We haven't seen it in the NBA yet. We haven't seen in the NHL. We haven't seen the players congregating together and getting a positive test. It's for the most part happened before everyone's gotten together. So we don't know how this can spread to a team. It may decimate a whole team. Like, it literally might take half out your roster. Who knows? We don't know yet.
That's why they have a 60-man roster.
Yeah. And
And
that's
so
going to
the major league, and so the 30-man roster, in case everyone gets it, you got to know the 30-man roster.
And
to come
that's
up.
a great thing to see, though, is teams that are in their quote unquote rebuilding mode, they'll know what they have, because their possible best prospects are going to possibly see major league experience. So rebuilding teams are going to know where they're at when in terms of their rebuilding.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. This is really going to be interesting. I can't wait for this to start.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, and you get, like we talked about the last episode with like the DH. Like Johnny said that some teams could maybe use the DH as like with one of their top prospects, just to test them out and see what he does with the bat. Like somebody like the Phillies, somebody like the Phillies with Alec Baum, somebody like that.
Yeah, there's going to be a few teams out there that throw the guy out there. If you move in the position or whatever, see what he does with the bat.
Exactly,
this is a perfect opportunity.
This right now, because again, you have such an expanded roster and there's our teams like you said, Detroit, Kansas City, San Francisco. There's teams that know that they're not really poised to make a run, and you have the opportunity of such an expanded roster. Why don't you throw some of those young guys out, see how well they play, assess them at the major league level now to see what they have for the future?
Biggest disappointment. Well, you kind of mentioned that with the Astros, but
maybe this is an obvious answer, but I think that the Red Sox, just because of what's going on with the team, but again, they have some decent pitching. They have Rodriguez, they have Eovaldi, but again, you lost Mookie Betts, who is the best player on your team, and you don't now have Chris Sale. I think we kind of knew the Red Sox were not really poised to make the playoffs, but I think we're really going to see an absolute just dismantling of that team. I think now, again, with a new front office too, I think this team's really going to make a turn. I think you may not see that roster that they have now. I think Jackie Bradley Jr. most likely is not going to be there. Does he get traded? Because they're not necessarily sure what they want to do with him. So I think the Red Sox are probably going to be one of the worst teams in the AL this year.
Yeah, I can see that. Like I said with the Rays, I had the Rays missing the playoffs. So they're my disappointment team. I don't know. I know they have the starting pitching, but I don't know what's going to happen with the opener this year. Like, I don't know if they're going to use it as often as they did. And then, like, I just don't know what's going to happen with, like, the fifth spot in the rotation and, like, how it's going to be used and stuff. Like, the shortened season, you can't really work around it as much like they did. And then with the hitting, I don't know. They don't have really much hitting there. They do have obviously Austin Meadows, and they did add they added what's his name? My mind just went blank. Jose Martinez they added too, and then Renfroe.
Renfroe.
They kind of only have like 3 or 4 good like big bats, though. I don't know what else they really have. I think they obviously too they have to play the Blue Jays and Yankees a lot, so I think those are going to be tough series for them. And I just think they might end up running into a wall, kind of just going on a bad stretch of games.
Yeah, I'd say my biggest disappointment is going to be, well, aside from the Astros, it's going to be the Blue Jays. I'll stick with the AL East. A lot of people are looking at the Blue Jays like, oh, Vlad Guerrero, Bo Bichette, Kevin Biggio, all these guys and everything like that. The rest of the team's garbage.
Mm-hmm.
The starting pitching stinks. They signed Hyun-Jin Ryu for 4 years, a soft tossing lefty to come to the AL East in a hitter's park. I mean, come on. You know, on the back of like a first half ERA of 1 something. You know, I don't get it. Matt Schumacher, I'm sorry. The dude has yet to show he's stayed healthy. He's thrown 6 innings the past 2 years. What else do they have? They have no pitching staff. Their pitching staff is probably second worst in the AL to Seattle. And it may even be worse. They have nobody, Toronto. They have no pitching whatsoever. It might be fun. It might be fun to watch them because if Guerrero and Biggio and Bichette all start tearing it up and everything like that, yeah, it may be fun to watch games at the Rogers Center, but they're going to be losing games 12-10.
Oh, absolutely, and that's the thing. You know, everybody wants. I agree with you. I think a lot of people really think that people were banking on those guys. Again, they're going into their first full season in the major leagues. None of them even have full seasons yet in the pros. Right. So I don't think you should really be saying that the Blue Jays. No one should be saying the Blue Jays are a contending team.
A lot of people are talking about them. A lot of people are talking about them.
I agree. Yeah, I know. And those people are fucking morons.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I'm saying they're a disappointment. Not for me, because I don't think they're going to do anything anyway. But I think for a lot of people, they're looking at it like they signed Ryu. If Schumacher's healthy, yeah, you can always look at the positives. But I think the only way the Blue Jays are even a 500 team is if everything goes right for them. That's the only way I see them even being 500.
I agree too. I think they're going to be. I think they're a 26 win, maybe catch a little bit of a streak and get 30. That's the range I'll give them.
Yeah, if everything works out, they could be.
I think especially in that division, they could beat up on Baltimore. They could possibly beat up on Tampa. The Yankees will get them, but I think they can easily. I think they'll be around 26 to 30 wins this year.
I like Tampa Bay because I like their 3 top starters. I like Morton, I like Glasnow, and I like Snell. I think they're 3 top starters. You got to remember these guys are starting 40 of the 60 games of the season. Those 3 guys. I think, and we all know good pitching shuts down good offense. I think Tampa Bay shuts down Toronto's offense. I think the experience of Morton, Glasnow, and Snell, I think they're gonna own those young kids from Toronto this year. And I think Tampa Bay's lineup is decent enough where they're gonna get to those pitchers. Toronto's got no pitching. So that's why I picked Tampa Bay to get a wild card spot. I just think those 3 pitchers starting 60% of your games, I think it's good enough.
Okay.
Not to beat the Yankees for the division.
Yeah.
Not to beat the Yankees for the division, but I think it's good enough to get you to 35 wins, which I think is good enough in the AL to take a wild card spot.
Okay.
That's the way I'm looking at it. Anyway.
Yeah, it's 35 wins. Who knows? 35 wins may get you the wild card spot in the AL East, while 35 wins could probably get you the AL West. So it's so, again, like the season is so crazy that you really don't know what's going to happen. You don't know. And I think that's going to be the greatest part, but it's going to be the most frustrating to try to figure out.
That's why it's so it's so hard to just predict these, because you don't know what's gonna happen.
That's what I'm saying. It's so tough to predict.
All right, let's go with bounce back player. Machado. I think now it's his second year in San Diego. I think he kind of had to ease into it a little bit, and now he's going to get going in the second year after struggling a little bit last year, not really playing as well as he used to. And now they got a good team there, a good rebuilding team that's going to definitely get better from last year. I think within maybe next year or the year after, they're going to be contenders. I don't think they will be this year. I think they're still going to go through some growing pains. But Machado is definitely going to improve upon last year and be a big piece of the lineup along with Tatis Jr. So he's my bounce back.
I thought we were sticking with AL.
I kind of just went. I didn't even think about I just.
I was wondering, but hey, you know what? I wasn't going to stop your flow.
Yeah, well, I wasn't going to interrupt you, but I'll roll with my bounce back, and this is what I meant to say before. Referring to you, Supi, who you mentioned, Chris Davis, Chris with a K, over in Oakland. I think he bounces back this year. I got Oakland picked for the division, and I think Chris Davis in Oakland goes back to hitting 247, and I think he can hit 25 bombs in 60 games and be an integral piece in the middle of that lineup. So he's my bounce back guy this year, Chris Davis. Chris with a K over in Oakland.
You son of a bitch, because it's exactly who I was going to pick. So
I can pick someone else if you want. I had a choice of two people.
What I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. You pick Chris with a K, Davis. Everybody knows how I feel about Chris with a C, Davis. So I'm going to pick Baltimore Oriole Chris Davis, bounce back player of the year. He hits 210 this year. That's a comeback year for Chris Davis. He hits 210 with 6 home runs and 15 RBIs. Bounce back player of the year.
Damn, put it in the books. Supi said it. Put it in the books.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, sorry I stole your thunder, man.
No,
I had another guy I was talking about too. I was thinking about too. But we'll save that.
I was literally looking up. I'm like, why? I was like, okay, I picked Chris Davis. Let me just re-look at my notes. And as you said it, you were saying it. I'm like, mother. I was like, you know what? Then I'm picking one of my favorite players from last year who I love to rag on was Chris with a C Davis.
Yeah, I mean, hey, he had a good spring training, so.
Hey, in a short season,
again,
in a short season, he could either hit 300 or 0.
Yeah.
He started 0 for what, 48 or something?
Something like that, yeah.
I think it was 0 for 54, actually.
Oh, God.
Again, if Chris Davis hits 210, he should win comeback player of the year. Hands down.
Yeah.
Can he strike out fewer than 100 times in 60 games? I doubt it.
Oh my God! If he strikes out 100 times in only 60 games, oh my!
Well, yeah,
you can't be. You really can't be that bad. You can't.
Well, he is. I mean,
I'm not arguing with you there.
He's proven it. The worst contract in baseball. That's the worst contract in baseball.
You forgot Jacoby Ellsbury still exists.
Yeah, but Chris Davis is a negative WAR. He actually hurts the team by being on the field. At least Ellsbury isn't there.
Yeah.
So I think honestly,
right.
Chris Davis is probably worse.
Yeah, you're probably right.
I agree.
Paying Chris Davis $23 million to like hurt your team. At least Ellsbury's only getting $20 million to sit in Oregon somewhere. You know.
Oh, I'm glad the Yankees finally just got rid of him already.
Yeah, I knew that contract was bad from the start. He was an older guy. He was injury prone, and they just wanted to. I think the Yankees just kind of wanted to stick it to the Red Sox again and just pay one of their best players more money.
Yeah,
they did. It's not the first time they've done it. So
I thought it was Johnny Damon 2.0.
Yeah.
yeah.
You know, interesting stat about Jacoby Ellsbury. Did you know he's the last player in the Major League Baseball to steal 70 bases in a season?
Oh my God.
2009.
Wow.
70 bases. He's the last player in Major League Baseball to do that.
Wow.
That was the one thing that I saw. I saw some post, and they talked about Ricky Henderson. Would Ricky Henderson steal 100 bases if he played right now?
Probably not.
I don't think so.
Probably not. I could see him still in 50, 60, maybe. But the thing with Ricky, I think, would be if he was a player now, especially with walks and home runs, I think he'd hit more home runs and he'd walk even more than he did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He'd be an on-bit. I mean, the guy would be a leadoff hitter hitting 270, 260, 270, but with 140 walks every year. His on-base percentage would be like 420, 430. Easy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he'd hit 20 bombs every year. I'll take that every day of the week. I mean, we're talking about the best leadoff hitter ever. Really.
Exactly. And that's the thing, too. That's what you expect of your leadoff hitter. Now, if your leadoff hitter hits 275, you call that a win.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Ricky was Ricky. Ricky was the guy was one of the – he's probably top, just off the top of my head overall. I'd probably have to put him top 30, top 40 all time.
I wouldn't argue against that at all.
In the history of baseball.
Again, with the way the game is so different right now, I don't expect anybody to ever break his stolen bases record. Just the way that how the landscape of the game has changed.
Yeah. It's never going to happen.
Yeah,
never going to happen.
There's
no way.
On ESPN they had quote unquote unbreakable records. The only two that I wholeheartedly believe that cannot be broken, I'm going to go Ricky Henderson stolen base. But again, same thing, Cal Ripken Jr. Just the way the landscape of the game has changed, you're never going to see those records broken at all.
Yeah, or the hitting streak either, probably.
I think the hitting streak could be.
It's possible.
I think there's the realm of possibility in that.
Yeah.
And that's what I say is a quote unquote unbreakable record. Because someone could still get on a hot streak. We've seen players get up, get into the 40s. But just the way that, every player now takes games off, you'll never see that consecutive game streak broken. And just the fact that power now reigns supreme in baseball. You're never going to see anybody get even near Ricky Henderson's record.
Well, think about Ricky Henderson's record. He has 1,406 stolen bases. You would have to steal. Now, mind you, I just said in 2009, Jacoby Ellsbury was the last player to steal 70 bases in the season. You would have to steal 70 bases 20 years in a row to get to 1,400. Yeah. Dude, it's not. You'd have to come up at 19 years old and steal 70 bases every single year until you're 39. That's not happening.
No.
That's not happening. Not just only with the player landscape, the way the game is played now. But just that's a freak of nature. It's like Nolan Ryan. Honestly, his strikeout record is never going to be broken.
Yeah.
I know guys strike out crazy amounts of guys now, but you got to remember the innings. No one throws 230 innings anymore. I mean, Nolan Ryan was striking out 350 guys. He was also throwing 320 innings.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and for someone to strike out 5,700 batters, again, that's 285 batters a year for 20 years straight. Mm-hmm. It's not happening. Guys' arms don't last like that anymore. Nolan Ryan, Ricky Henderson, they were freaks of nature. They were just Nolan Ryan's arm was like it was made of rubber. He just had a rubber arm. And Ricky Henderson, he did it with speed early in his career, and then he had such a knowledge of pitching and the way when to get the jump and stuff like that. Like he is one of a kind in history. You know, we see this in sports. You know, you look at Barry Sanders, like in football. No one runs like him. No one ever did. And no one ever will. He's just like a freak of nature. The way he cut and like with no quarterback, no offense. Like, I mean, he was just unbelievable.
Yeah.
You know, you see guys like that, and you got to realize, like when you're watching guys like that, it's like, wow, I'm watching a one of a kind, like a player that I could actually tell my grandkids about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that 100%. Even like a Bo Jackson, we'll never. You know, Bo Jackson had the strength. He was so strong, and yet he had the speed, he had the quickness, he had all that, and he did it in two sports. So.
Yeah. Well, to have that hand-eye coordination that Bo Jackson had, to actually be a good major league hitter, and to have that power and agility in football, like, but the physical demands, that's never going to happen either. That's never going to happen again. Incredible athlete, but you can't put your body through that 12 months out of the year. You just can't.
No,
it's just not humanly possible. You know.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with the Cal Ripken thing too. No one's breaking that.
Oh yeah.
Oh no.
That's not. No. No one's coming close. No one's even coming close to that.
I agree.
Yeah.
Half that record. Half that record's not happening.
We could do a whole episode on just unbreakable records.
Yeah.
Well, if we hit a second pandemic, I think that's the idea.
Yeah.
I mean, you could look at some other records too. I mean, as far as Cy Young's 511 wins, obviously that's not happening again. But I mean, that's from an older time. We're talking about Ricky Henderson and Nolan Ryan that were like, you know, post World War II. You know, let's try to make it a little more modern.
Well, that's what I was when I was looking at who could hit 400. I was looking at who has the highest ever batting average ever in the history of Major League Baseball. Modern day era, we say it's Ted Williams, but I think you could go back to the 1897, which I think was the highest batting average at like 436. But like again,
Duffy,
we don't
438.
Yeah, you don't even think about that. Yeah, that's why they divided it into dead ball and live ball era.
Well, that was the amazing thing about, like, you know, because I remember, I'm old enough to remember when I was younger, when I was little, like George Brett, you know, chasing 400, he had 390. And then in 1994, the strike year, Tony Gwynn was hitting 394.
Oh, yeah.
If anyone could have done it, it was him. You know, and even the What If article I did, I had him hitting 400 exactly, like going 2 for 5 the last day of the season, 3 for 5 the last day of the season. But I don't think anyone's, because no one does that anymore. No one hits anymore. As far as getting hits. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't know if that's going to happen. Someone is going to have to get really lucky, and it's going to be someone who walks a lot.
Yeah.
So if someone walks a lot, and like someone like a Bonds was like in 2004 with the 200 walks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like someone like that who actually gets lucky on the balls they hit and play, then maybe you could see it. But that's a stretch, man. Dude, that's 2 for 5 every day. That's a lot.
Yeah,
man.
which it's that's so. I think with the way, again, the landscape of the game is so different now. I think just that's the last hitter who I could really think that had that opportunity was, to me, Ichiro. Just the way that, he was a very much finesse hitter. He talks about he could place the ball wherever he wanted. He basically just put the head. He could hit it wherever he wanted, and he never did. He's had 200 hit seasons and never hit 400.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ichiro is a lot like Tony Gwynn in that sense.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They were very similar hitters that way.
Mm-hmm.
They just put the barrel on the ball and hit it wherever, But
they knew they weren't trying to hit it hard or hit it far. They were just trying to hit it, and nobody was better than that. Than Tony Gwynn. Tony Gwynn and Ichiro were probably the two best that could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tony Gwynn was classic for that. I mean, he
Yeah.
just placed it. It was almost like he was hitting with a tennis racket and placed it.
Oh yeah,
like it was unbelievable.
No,
Unbelievable.
I agree 100%. I like, again. I'm a little older enough too where I can remember him, in his career, and just like you just watch him. It almost looked like with Tony. It almost looked like he followed the ball the entire way in, and then just like as it like approached the plate, he goes, let me just tap it, and it'll just go wherever I feel like it.
I was also just gonna say too, like what you talked about Ichiro, he has a couple of those like records too. He had 10 straight seasons of 200 hits.
Mm-hmm.
And that one season he had 262 hits, so those are probably pretty unbreakable too. So
yeah, I think Ichiro. I don't know why people don't acknowledge that Ichiro is the hit king. I mean, it doesn't really matter that he played over in Japan. Just the way he played. I mean, to have 3,000 hits in a league that you didn't start in. But to play as long as he did, I mean, again, it's amazing. But again, he did not even start he didn't play there for a few years, and the guy still got 3,000 hits in Major League Baseball. To me, I think Ichiro is the hit king. He has the pedigree, and he didn't even start his career here.
yeah.
Yeah, he didn't even start. He didn't even start here until he was 27. Could you
Exactly.
imagine 5 years if he came up with 22 and hit 1,000 hits.
I don't know why they don't. He has 4,000 career pro. He should. I don't know why they don't acknowledge that he has 4,000 career hits.
Not only that, character-wise, I'd rather him be the hit king than Pete Rose.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll do National League predictions probably sometime next week, right before a couple weeks before the season starts, and then we'll be doing. I don't know if you want to mention about the whole site thing, Johnny.
Oh yeah, the Scorecrow. We're moving over. Merging with Primetime Sports Talk.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, exciting new adventure. Bringing their writers. We're bringing our writers. The Too Much Podtar here. This pod that we do, it's not going to change. Still going to be doing it. So it's still going to be under that. We're going to have a podcast section under Primetime Sports Talk, so everyone will still be able to listen to it. Still be able to listen to Supi do his yelling from the bench from the YouTube channel and from the podcast. Like
Uh-huh.
everything is gonna be the same pretty much. We're just gonna be under one umbrella, joining forces basically.
Yeah.
I mean, the two of us, Primetime has gotten big in the past couple of years. They have a big presence, especially on Facebook and stuff like that too. We have a big presence on Twitter. We've built our brand over the past 2 years, up to 100,000 views a month. Yeah, we just keep growing, and combining the two of us, this is going to be great. This is going to be great.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited. When I heard about this, I was like super stoked. You know, again, just an opportunity for this site. I know how Johnny, how long you've been working on this site, and I know all the work that you've put into it. And now finally, for this opportunity, I think it's just going to make us and them so much better. So I'm definitely excited.
Well, that's the thing too, and I didn't want to. This was about a month long negotiation. Talking to Nick, who runs Primetime and stuff. We went back and forth a lot, the past month, and I really, if I didn't see this as a great opportunity, I wouldn't have given up the brand of the Scarecrow, because it's my baby, man. I started this over 2 years ago from nothing and kind of started it going, and, it was tough. It's tough to get rid of, kind of, but it's also a new adventure and it's a new thing.
Yeah.
And the bottom line is that we all love talk sport. We all love to talk sports. Those guys love to talk sports. I've gotten to know a couple of them over there, and you guys have been great. And this is what it's all about. Just talk sports analysis, and this is what we do. And just
exactly
combining it and bringing it to a bigger audience and getting everything going. We're gonna be big, man. We're gonna be big. This is a big deal.
I'm definitely excited. I think this is a great opportunity. When I found this out, I looked over at the site and went over and looked at some of the articles. There's a lot of great writers there. And I know for us too, we have a ton of great writers, a ton of great talent. And it just means a bigger network and just more people writing, more coverage of not just baseball, but every sport you could think of. And I think it's just going to be able for us to expand and have an even bigger presence. We're going to grow even more.
Yeah, this is going to be big, man. This is going to be big.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as always, you can never have too much pod tower. We'll be back again next episode.